The planet was silent. A cold wind swept across the barren land, carrying dust and strange sounds that seemed to echo from nowhere. High above, the sky was a deep, endless black, dotted with stars that shone coldly, as if they were too far to care. On this lonely planet, far from her home world, an alien woman huddled in the shadows of a broken structure. She was not like any human. Her skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the dim light of the distant sun. Her eyes, large and glowing, searched the horizon, hoping, praying for a sign of life. Days had passed since her ship crashed here. 13 days. 13 endless, painful days. She had cried out for help from the very first moment, her voice echoing into the void, but no one answered. Each day had been harder than the last. Her body was weak, trembling with hunger and exhaustion. Her voice, once strong and full of hope, had grown hoarse. Every sound she made felt swallowed by the vast emptiness around her. The cold nights made her shiver. The sunlight during the day burned her sensitive skin. She had tried to repair her communicator, a small device that could send signals across light years, but the crash had damaged it beyond recognition, and still she called out. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but filled with urgency. "Please, someone, help me." The words fell into the empty winds and disappeared. She tried again, louder this time, her hands trembling as she pressed her palms to the device. Sparks flew, but no message left the device. She sank to the ground, tears sliding down her cheeks. It was strange, she thought, how easy it was to feel alone in a universe that was supposed to be full of life. She remembered the first days after the crash, the panic, the fear, but now it was something deeper, something heavier, a quiet despair that threatened to swallow her completely. Suddenly a sharp sound broke. The silence. Her ears twitched. It was faint, almost like a pulse, but it was there. She froze, listening. Her heart raced. Could it be another life? Another being? Or just her imagination? She jumped to her feet, her eyes scanning the horizon. Nothing. Only dust, rocks, and the endless sky. But the sound had not been part of the wind. It had been different. Almost alive. Desperation fueled her now. She crawled to the top of a small hill, waving her arms, trying to create a signal, something that could be seen from the skies. She screamed louder than before. "Help! Anyone! Please!" Her voice cracked, raw from days of calling out, but still she tried. The alien woman remembered stories from her childhood about explorers who traveled across galaxies. She had always believed that someone, somewhere, would come to help if she was in trouble. Now, in this lonely moment, that belief was her only lifeline. She clung to it with everything she had left. Time passed slowly. Minutes felt like hours. The sun moved across the sky, but the shadows never offered comfort. She had no food, no water, and only the broken remnants of her ship as shelter. Her energy was fading. She sank to the ground again, pulling her knees close. She tried to focus on her memories, the happy moments, the laughter, the family she had left behind on her home planet. But even those thoughts brought pain. The isolation made her heart ache in ways she had never known. She whispered to herself, "Please, someone hear me. Someone, please." Night came. The stars above were cold and silent, watching her struggle but offering no help. She wrapped herself in the thin fabric of her ship's emergency blanket, shivering in the icy darkness. She closed her eyes, trying to imagine warmth, a friendly voice, a hand reaching out to her, but all she felt was the cold, the silence, and the endless void. And then, a faint light flickered on the horizon, a single point, tiny and distant, barely visible. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. Could it be? She sat up, heart pounding. Her voice trembled, weak but hopeful. "Hello, is anyone there? Please help me." The light did not move, but it did not disappear. It stayed, a small promise in the vast emptiness. Her heart raced with hope she had almost forgotten. She could not yet see who it was, or if it was even real. But for the first time in 13 days, she felt something she had not felt since the crash. A chance. A chance that maybe, just maybe, someone was out there, listening. And somewhere, across the vast expanse of space, a human being unknowingly detected a strange signal, faint but unusual. It was weak, almost drowned in the noise of the universe. But it was there, and it was reaching someone. The alien woman did not know it yet, but her cry had finally been heard. The alien woman sat in the shadow of her broken ship, staring at the horizon. The faint light she had seen yesterday was gone, swallowed by the endless darkness of space. Still, she did not move. She could not. Her body ached from hunger and exhaustion. Every muscle screamed at her to give up. but her mind refused. She had survived 13 days before. She could survive a little longer. The silence around her was almost alive. The wind whispered across the rocks, carrying tiny grains of dust that stung her skin. She listened carefully, hoping, always hoping, that she might hear something different, a sound that meant someone was near. But there was only the wind, the occasional groan of her broken ship, and her own ragged breathing. She tried to think about the past. Her home planet, full of life and music, felt like a dream now. Her family, her friends, the laughter they shared, it all seemed distant, almost unreal. The memories brought both warmth and pain. She closed her eyes, holding onto the warmth like a fragile flame in the cold darkness. Days passed slowly. She counted them in her mind, though the numbers blurred. Together, each sunrise brought a faint hope that someone would come. Each sunset brought despair when the horizon remained empty. She had tried every method to send a signal. She had repaired her communicator as best as she could, but it was useless. She had shouted until her voice was almost gone. She had left signs on the ground, hoping any passing traveler might notice. And still, nothing. Hunger gnawed at her, sharp and constant. She had eaten what little supplies survived the crash. Water was even scarcer. Every drop had to be rationed carefully. She remembered the advice her elders had given. In isolation, the mind must remain strong, or the body will fail faster. She repeated the words like a prayer. Stay strong. Survive. Wait. One night, as the cold crept into her bones, she heard it again. A faint, strange vibration in the ground. It was soft at first, almost imperceptible, but it grew steadily. Her eyes snapped open. She had learned to recognize the rhythms of her planet. And this was not natural. Something was coming. She scrambled to her feet, her body weak but adrenaline pumping. Her heart thumped in her chest like a drum. She grabbed a small emergency light from her pocket and shone it across the horizon. Nothing. The vibration stopped as suddenly as it had started. Had she imagined it? Was it another cruel trick of the void? She sank back to the ground, trembling. Her mind raced. Could someone be out there? A ship, a traveler, someone who could help her. She wanted to believe it, but hope had become a dangerous thing over these long days. It could lift her spirits and then crush them all at once. As she sat in the cold darkness, her thoughts began to wander to the stars above. She imagined them as eyes, watching silently, judging silently, distant and untouchable. But then she wondered, what if one of those distant lights was not a star, but a ship, a human ship perhaps, traveling across the void, unaware of her suffering? The thought made her shiver with both fear and hope. She had heard stories of humans from distant galaxies, curious, bold, unpredictable creatures. Some said they were reckless, some said they were heroes. She had never met one. But if anyone could survive space, anyone could find her. It might be them. Morning came slowly. She used the faint light to inspect her broken ship. Every piece of metal was twisted and torn. The communicator, still useless, lay in her hands like a dead friend. She had tried everything, yet something inside her refused to give up. Her hope had become stubborn, a stubborn flame refusing to die. Hours turned to days. She kept moving, searching for food, for water, for anything that might keep her alive. She drew strange symbols in the sand, hoping someone might understand. She screamed at the empty skies, sometimes in anger, sometimes in despair. But always, she ended with the same plea. Please, anyone, hear me. And then, one day, she noticed a faint anomaly in the horizon. It was subtle, almost invisible, a shimmer in the heat of the distant rocks. She blinked, unsure if her mind was playing tricks on her, but as she watched, it shifted slightly as though moving. Her heart leapt. She scrambled to her feet, waving her arms, shouting with every ounce of her fading strength. Her voice was barely more than a whisper, but it carried something different now. Determination. She refused to give in to despair. She refused to die alone in this empty place. She knew that if she stayed alive long enough, if she could endure just a little longer, someone might hear her. Someone might come. And somewhere, far across the void, her signals, faint, broken, imperfect, began to stir a presence. The universe, silent and cold, had noticed. She did not know it yet, but her silent days, her endless waiting, had not been in vain. Somewhere out there, a human was about to notice the faint, unusual signal that she had sent into the void. And soon, everything would change. The alien woman had grown used to the silence. Each day, she learned the rhythm of the barren planet. The way the wind shifted, the way the rocks groaned under the weight of gravity, the strange, quiet hum of distant, unseen machinery buried beneath the sand. Yet even in her careful routines, her mind never stopped searching. Every shadow, every flicker of light was a potential sign of life. On the 14th day, something changed. It was subtle at first, a shimmer in the sky like heat rising off the rocks, but steadier than anything she had ever seen on this planet. Her large, glowing eyes narrowed. She held her breath. The wind shifted, carrying the faintest sound, a low, pulsing vibration that made the ground hum beneath her feet. It was not the wind, it was something else, something alive. Her heart began to race. She could not tell if it was hope or fear or both tangled together in her chest. She raised her hand to the sky, shading her eyes, scanning the horizon. The shimmer moved slightly, like it was shifting in response to something. Her presence? She couldn't tell. She stayed perfectly still, barely daring to breathe. Then a faint hum, almost like a heartbeat, echoed across the rocks. Her ears, finely tuned for sound, detected irregular patterns. The vibrations were steady but unpredictable, almost as if they were signals. Someone or something was sending them. She ran to a small ridge, careful not to make too much noise. Her hands trembled, not from cold, but from the wild pulse of hope in her veins. She raised the broken communicator, holding it toward the faint shimmer. She whispered words she had repeated for days. Please, anyone, hear me. The shimmer flickered, almost in response, but did not vanish. Her pulse quickened. Could it be a traveler? A human? Her mind raced with possibilities. She had never seen Humdisi Ans in person, only in stories, tales of strange, curious beings who explored galaxies. They were supposed to be brave, clever, and unpredictable. If anyone could survive the void and find her, it would be them. Hours passed. The shimmer seemed to grow closer, though the distance was still impossible to judge. She crawled up to the top of a small hill and lifted her hands, waving them like a beacon. The vibrations in the ground grew stronger, rhythmic, almost like a signal being sent back. Her chest ached with anticipation. Then, suddenly, the shimmer changed. A small, sharp flash of light split the horizon. She fell back, heart hammering. The light pulsed again, brighter this time, illuminating the jagged rocks around her. Her mind raced. Was it danger, or was it help? She had learned caution in these long, silent days. She scanned the surrounding terrain, searching for movement. Nothing stirred except the wind, but the light did not fade. It lingered, steady and deliberate, like it had a purpose. Her hands shook as she touched the sand, leaving faint impressions. She whispered to herself, "Please, if you are out there, come to me." Her voice, though weak, carried the weight of 13 days of isolation, of pain, of hope, stretching thin. Then it happened. A figure appeared, not in the sky, not yet, but closer. Small at first, a speck moving against the light, growing slowly. She froze, fear gripping her. She had no weapons, no means to defend herself. Her only chance was hope and the will to survive. The figure drew closer, step by step. She could see the faint outline now, humanoid, strong, upright, moving with purpose. Could it be a human? Her mind screamed with possibilities. She wanted to run, to fall to her knees, to scream all at once. Instead, she stayed still, her glowing eyes locked on the approaching figure. The vibrations grew louder now, more rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat in sync with her own. She could feel it through the ground, through her bones. The figure paused, scanning the area. She raised her hands higher, waving for her. Antically. The human, or whatever it was, looked up. For a long moment, there was silence, broken only by the faint hum of the ground. Then a voice, a human voice, sharp and cautious. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Her heart soared. She dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Here! I'm here! Please help me!" she cried. The sound, raw and desperate, carried across the rocks. The figure moved closer, stepping over jagged stones. She could see the human's face now, partially shielded by a helmet, eyes scanning, searching for signs of danger. There was caution there, yes, but also curiosity, a spark of recognition. Her voice trembled as she whispered again, "Please, I have been alone for 13 days. Please help me." The human knelt, reaching out a hand cautiously, as if unsure whether she was friend or threat. The alien woman's heart pounded. This was it, the first real contact in 13 long days. She was not alone anymore. And yet the danger of the unknown still lingered. She did not know if this human could be trusted. She did not know what lay beyond the horizon. But for the first time, she felt a flicker of hope that the void could be survived. Somewhere deep in the darkness of space, the faint signal she had sent finally had a response. And soon, the quiet, empty planet would no longer be silent. The alien woman froze as the human kneeled a few meters away, helmeted face turned toward her. For 13 days, she had cried into the void, hoping, praying that someone, anyone, would come. And now, here was a living being standing in the harsh light of her barren planet, extending a cautious hand. Her chest rose and fell quickly. Her glowing eyes darted from the human's hand to the figure itself. It seemed fragile, not in strength but in form, small, upright, soft-skinned, with tools and gadgets strapped to its body. And yet, in its cautious stand, there was bravery. Something in the human's posture told her it was willing to face the unknown. For a moment, silence stretched between them, thick and heavy. The wind whistled over the rocks, carrying grains of sand across the ground. She wanted to speak, to cry, to leap forward, but her body was too weak, too fragile from the days of hunger and thirst. She sank to the sand, hands trembling, unsure if she could even reach for the offered hand. The human tilted its head slightly, studying her carefully. Then, with careful, deliberate movements, it crouched lower, holding out its hand a little more. A soft, steady voice came through a small speaker in the helmet. I think you're injured. Can you move?" Her lips trembled as she tried to answer. Her voice cracked, hoarse and weak from days of shouting. I am alone for 13 days. Please, help." The words came in broken fragments, but they were enough. The human nodded once, almost as if understanding without fully knowing. Its eyes scanned her body quickly, noticing the bruises, the torn clothing, the faint burns on her skin. It moved closer, slowly, carefully, mindful not to frighten her further. She flinched at each step, but the human's movements were gentle, non-threatening. Finally, it knelt directly before her, removing a small device from its belt. The device emitted a soft hum, scanning her in seconds. Numbers and symbols appeared on a tiny screen, but to her, it was just light and sound. She did not understand it, yet somehow she trusted it. There was care in the human's actions, precision, compassion. "You're going to be okay," the human said softly. "I'll help you." The words were strange, foreign, but they carried warmth. She wanted to cry, but tears burned her dry eyes. She nodded weakly, unable to find any other words. The wind howled around them, carrying shadows that seemed alive, threatening. The alien woman shivered. Her home was far away, her family unreachable across the vastness of space. And yet, in that moment, she realized something extraordinary. This fragile, strange being in front of her, it had crossed the void. It had found her. The human slowly offered a hand again, hesitant but insistent. She stared at it for a moment, then, with a trembling motion, reached forward. Their fingers met briefly, the alien's cool, glowing skin brushing against the human's warm, soft one. It was a small gesture, yet it carried immense meaning, trust, hope, survival. Then the human produced a small pack, opening it to reveal food and water. Her stomach twisted at the sight. She had gone days without nourishment, surviving on scraps and her own fading strength. She took a small sip of the water, letting it slide down her throat, feeling life return in tiny pulses. She ate cautiously, every bite a miracle, every swallow a victory. As she regained a little strength, the human sat back on its heels, still watching her carefully. Their eyes, alien and human, locked for a long moment. Neither spoke, but something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, connection, perhaps even respect. Then the human pointed toward the horizon. "We need to move you," it said. "Your ship. It's not safe. Can you stand?" The alien woman hesitated. Her body protested, weak and trembling. But she knew the human was right. She had survived the void, but her ship, damaged and lifeless, offered no future. Slowly, painfully, she allowed herself to be helped to her feet. The human's grip was steady, supportive, guiding her across the rough, uneven ground. Every step was a struggle, yet with each movement she felt a strange sense of hope. She was alive. Someone had found her. Someone had chosen to care. And for the first time in nearly 2 weeks, she realized she was no longer alone in the universe. As they moved together, the human glanced back at the horizon, scanning the empty sky. The alien woman followed its gaze, noticing the vast expanse above them, the dark void, the stars cold and distant. But somehow it no longer seemed quite as empty. She had been alone for 13 days, but now she had someone by her side. The first contact had been made, and somewhere deep in the universe, faint signals continued to flicker from her broken communicator. Perhaps others would hear them too, but for now, the alien woman knew one truth. Humans could reach across the void. Humans could care. Humans could survive. And maybe in that survival, they could also save others. For the first time since the crash, she allowed herself to breathe, not just to survive, but to hope. And the human, kneeling patiently beside her, had no idea that this small act of compassion would become the beginning of a story far larger than either of them could yet imagine. The alien woman's legs trembled as she took each step, leaning heavily on the human's steady arm. Her body was fragile from hunger and thirst, but her spirit clung to the tiniest spark of hope. She could feel the warmth and strength of the human beside her, a presence so strange yet comforting. For the first time in 13 days, the void around her felt less empty, but hope did not erase danger. The barren planet was unpredictable, cruel. Sharp rocks jutted from the ground like broken teeth. Cracks in the soil threatened to swallow the unwary. The wind, which had seemed so empty before, now carried a constant low growl, as if warning them of unseen dangers. Dust and debris swirled across the surface, stinging the alien woman's skin, and she felt the pull of gravity tugging at her weak body. The human led her carefully through the jagged terrain, eyes scanning constantly for hazards. Every few steps it would stop, pointing to unstable ground or loose rocks. "Watch your step," the human said, voice calm but firm. "We can't afford a fall, not now." She nodded, gripping the human's arm tightly. Every step was painful, every movement a battle between exhaustion and determination. Her mind drifted for a moment to the thought that she might not survive another fall, another scrape, another moment of weakness. And yet, she pressed on. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the canyon-like cliffs that surrounded them. The alien woman froze, her glowing eyes darting toward the sound. A piece of rock had broken away from above, tumbling down toward them. The human acted instantly, pulling her to the side with a strength she could not have imagined, shielding her with its own body. "Stay close," the human commanded, voice low but urgent. "Don't move too fast, we have to be careful." The alien woman's heart pounded in her chest. Fear coursed through her veins, but it was mixed with a strange exhilaration. She realized that survival was not just about waiting, it was about courage, about moving forward even when the world seemed determined to crush you. They pressed on, carefully navigating a narrow path along the edge of a steep cliff. Dust and sand shifted beneath their feet, and every misstep could mean a deadly fall. The alien woman felt her strength faltering, but the human's steady presence gave her courage. Every time she stumbled, the human steadied her, whispering words she could barely understand but that carried reassurance. "Almost there. Keep going. You're safe with me." Hours passed, or perhaps minutes. The alien woman had lost track of time. The planet's harsh surface and her weakened body made every step feel endless. And yet the thought of survival pushed her forward. She clung to the human's hand, trusting in something she had never known, that even in the void, even in isolation, someone could care enough to risk everything for her. Then, without warning, the ground beneath them shuddered. The alien woman's eyes widened in alarm. The cliffs trembled as a small landslide began, rocks cascading down the slopes like a river of stone. Dust and debris filled the air, making it near low. Impossible to see. She could hear the roar of falling rocks, the rush of wind, and the pounding of her own heart. "Hold on," the human shouted, grabbing her firmly. They ran together, leaping over cracks in the earth, dodging the larger boulders that threatened to crush them. The alien woman's body ached. Her limbs screamed in protest, but she refused to let go. Survival was no longer a distant hope. It was a fierce, burning necessity. Finally, they reached a safer stretch of land. The human collapsed briefly, panting, while the alien woman sank to her knees, tears of relief streaming down her glowing cheeks. She had survived. They had survived. The human scanned the horizon, eyes alert for any new danger. "We're not safe yet," it said, voice low. "We need to keep moving. My ship is a few kilometers from here. You can rest there." The alien woman nodded weakly, trusting the human completely. Each step toward the ship was slow, careful, and deliberate. Every movement carried the weight of exhaustion, but also of hope. A hope that had refused to die, even after 13 days in the void. When they finally reached the human ship, a sleek silver craft that gleamed even in the planet's harsh light, the alien woman's knees gave way, and she collapsed fully into the human's arms. The human supported her gently, carrying her into the small cabin of the ship. The interior was warm, filled with soft lights and strange instruments, but more importantly, it was safe. The alien woman's breathing slowed as she sank into the seat, still trembling but alive. She looked at the human, trying to find words, but none came. Instead, she simply reached out, touching the human's hand in silent gratitude. The human smiled faintly, almost tiredly, but there was pride in its eyes. "You made it," it said softly. "You're going to be okay now, I promise." For the first time since her crash, the alien woman allowed herself to truly relax. The danger was not gone, and the universe was still vast and unknown. But in that moment, she realized something extraordinary. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were protectors, helpers, beings who could cross impossible distances, face incredible danger, and save lives. And as she sat there, still trembling but alive, she understood something else too. This rescue was not just an act of survival. It was a beginning of a bond that would change both of them, and perhaps, one day, the universe itself. The alien woman sat on the soft floor of the human's ship, her body still trembling from the journey across the jagged terrain. Every muscle ached, her stomach growled faintly, but she felt something she hadn't felt in 13 days. Safety. The harsh winds, the sharp rocks, the endless silence, all of it had been replaced by warmth, light, and the presence of someone who cared enough to risk everything to save her. The human moved carefully around her, adjusting controls and checking instruments. Its helmet reflected the soft lights inside the cabin, but the alien woman could see the intent in its movements. It was focused, precise, calm. Every action was deliberate, ensuring she was not just alive, but safe. She wanted to speak, to thank the human, to tell it everything, how lonely she had been, how terrified, how desperate. But her voice was still weak. Instead, she reached out, touching the human's arm lightly. The contact was simple, small, but filled with gratitude. The human paused, looking at her with a mixture of surprise and understanding. "You're safe now," the human said softly, voice steady. "No more danger, at least for now. We'll get you back to health." Her glowing eyes shimmered with emotion. Words failed her. Instead, she allowed herself to relax, letting the tension of 13 long days melt away, even if just for a moment. She could feel the warmth of the ship, the gentle hum of machinery, the steady presence of the human beside her. Then a warning light flickered on the control panel, casting a red glow across the cabin. The human's attention snapped to it immediately, hands moving quickly across the instruments. "There's a storm coming," it said. "Electrical storms on this planet can be dangerous. We need to leave the surface before it hits." Fear shot through the alien woman's chest. She had survived the planet's harsh conditions, but the thought of being caught in a storm while still weak was terrifying. The human noticed her expression and crouched beside her, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "We'll leave together," it said. "I won't let anything happen to you." The words, simple as they were, carried immense weight. She realized something extraordinary. Humans were not just strong or clever. They could be brave, kind, and compassionate all at once. They could act without hesitation to protect another being, even one they barely knew. She had waited 13 days for someone to care. Now, here was proof that humans could. The ship's engines roared softly as the human prepared for takeoff. The alien woman felt the vibrations beneath her, the gentle lifting sensation as the craft rose above the planet's surface. The wind howled below, stirring dust and rocks into the sky, but inside the ship, there was calm, safety, hope. She watched the barren landscape shrink beneath them, the jagged cliffs and empty plains stretching into the distance. Her mind raced with thoughts she could barely form. Who was this human? Why had it come? And most importantly, could this bond survive beyond the confines of this ship? The human glanced at her, noticing her gaze. "You're wondering about me," it said, a hint of a smile in its voice. "I guess that's normal, but right now focus on staying alive." She nodded, trying to smile back, but her lips barely moved. Still, the human understood. There was no need for words. The connection was already there, in small gestures, in the way it had carried her, protected her, and saved her life. As the ship moved higher, clouds of dust and electric energy from the storm below began to crackle and flash. Lightning danced across the barren surface, striking rocks and sending showers of sparks into the sky. The alien woman's eyes widened at the display. It was dangerous, yes, but it was also beautiful in a wild, untamed way. And here she was, safe, because someone had dared to come for her. Hours passed as the human navigated the storm, guiding the ship carefully through turbulence and flashes of lightning. The alien woman sat quietly, letting the hum of the engines and the gentle vibration of the craft calm her nerves. She realized something that made her glow faintly, not just from her alien physiology, but from emotion. She had been found. Someone had come when the universe seemed silent. Finally, the storm passed. The ship leveled off, hovering above calmer terrain. The alien woman took a deep breath, feeling a strength return to her limbs. She could move, she could think clearly, she could begin to hope again. She looked at the human beside her, noticing the faint fatigue in its movements, the careful glances it gave her to make sure she was all right. "Thank you," she whispered finally, voice soft but clear, "for saving me." The human nodded, eyes meeting hers. "You don't need to thank me. You survived. That's what matters. You're alive, and that's all that counts." The alien woman felt a warmth spread through her chest. Humans. They were strange, unpredictable, and yet capable of incredible courage and kindness. She had waited 13 days, calling into the void, hoping someone would hear her. And now, not only had someone heard her, but someone had come for her, fought for her, and brought her back from the brink of death. As the ship moved further from the storm, she realized the truth of what had happened. This was more than a rescue. It was a beginning, a bridge between two very different beings, united by survival, courage, and the rare gift of empathy. And somewhere in the quiet hum of the ship, she allowed herself to hope, not just for survival, but for a future. However uncertain, that might include this human, and perhaps many others like it. For the first time in 13 long days, she smiled, not just with relief, but with the promise of something new. The alien woman sat quietly in the human's ship, staring out at the stars that stretched endlessly across the black sky. For the first time in nearly 2 weeks, she felt safe. The cold, barren planet and the long days of isolation were behind her. The storm had passed, the jagged cliffs, the swirling dust, the silence of the void. They were memories now, distant and haunting, but no longer threatening. Beside her, the human worked calmly at the ship's controls, adjusting settings and monitoring readings. Its movements were precise, deliberate, and strangely reassuring. The alien woman watched for a moment, noticing how the human seemed at ease in the face of danger, how it acted without hesitation, and how it seemed to care more about her safety than its own comfort. She realized that this was why humans were remarkable. Not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they chose to act, to help, to protect, even when it was risky or inconvenient. She turned her glowing eyes toward the human. "Why? Why did you come?" she asked softly, her voice still weak but clear. The human paused, glancing at her with a faint, tired smile. "Because someone had to," it said simply. "Because no one should be left alone out there. You were calling for help, and I answered. That's what humans do." The alien woman felt a warmth spread through her chest, a strange and wonderful feeling. She had spent 13 days believing the universe was indifferent to her suffering, but this human had shown her that hope could still exist. That life, even in the emptiest parts of space, could reach across the void and touch another. For a long moment, they sat in silence, each lost eye, one thought. Then the human spoke again, softer this time. "We'll need to get you home, or at least somewhere safe. There are others out there, people, maybe your kind, and they'll want to know you're alive." The alien woman nodded, her mind racing. The thought of returning to her people, to her home, seemed almost impossible. Yet now, with the human by her side, it felt achievable. She realized that she had survived not just because of her own strength, but because someone had believed in her survival. Someone had chosen to act. Someone had given her hope. As the ship moved through the vast emptiness of space, she looked back toward the distant planet below. The jagged cliffs, the swirling dust, the barren surface. All of it had tested her, pushed her to the edge of despair. But it had also shown her something important. Survival was not just about endurance, but about connection, about finding another being willing to care, willing to risk, willing to act. The human glanced at her, reading the expression in her eyes. "You're thinking about your planet," it said. She nodded slowly. I thought I would never see it again. But now, I think I can. Because of you." The human's eyes softened, and it reached out to place a hand on hers. The contact was gentle, almost reassuring, and the alien woman felt a surge of gratitude she could not put into words. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that the universe was not entirely cruel, that somewhere out there, courage and kindness existed, even across the vast distances of space. As the stars passed outside the viewport, she began to speak again, slowly, carefully. I want to help you too. You saved me. Perhaps there is something I can do, some way I can repay you." The human smiled faintly. "You've already done more than you know. Your survival, that's enough. But maybe, one day, we'll work together. There's more out there than either of us can face alone." The alien woman considered this, her glowing eyes reflecting the distant light of stars. She realized that this journey, this rescue, was only the beginning, that the universe was vast, full of danger and mystery, but also full of possibilities. And now, she was not alone. She had a companion, she had hope, she had the chance to be part of something greater. Hours passed as the ship traveled through empty space, carrying them away from the lonely planet and toward a future neither could fully imagine. The alien woman rested, drawing strength from the steady hum of the ship, from the presence of the human beside her, from the knowledge that she had been saved not by chance, but by choice. And then, slowly, a smile crept across her face, a smile not of relief, but of determination. She had survived 13 days in the void. She had endured hunger, fear, and isolation. And now, she had been rescued by a human who had dared to act. She understood something essential. In a universe filled with darkness, compassion was a light, courage was contagious, and even the smallest act of bravery could change everything. The human noticed her smile and nodded faintly. "We'll face more challenges," it said, "but we'll face them together." The alien woman nodded, feeling a sense of purpose she had not felt since the crash. For the first time in 13 days, she allowed herself to hope, not just for survival but for a future full of possibility, a future where humans and aliens could work together, learn from each other, and maybe even change the universe. The stars stretched endlessly around them, infinite and silent, but the void was no longer empty. Two beings, so different yet connected, were moving forward together. And somewhere deep in the vastness of space, the first faint signals of hope were echoing, signals that might one day reach others, carrying the story of courage, compassion, and a rescue that changed everything. The alien woman's glowing eyes shone with a new light. The human beside her remained vigilant, ready for whatever lay ahead. Together, they were no longer just survivors, they were the beginning of something extraordinary. A new journey had begun,